Welcome to Be Customer Led, where we'll explore how leading experts in customer and employee experience are navigating organizations through their own journey to be customer led, and the actions and behaviors employees and businesses exhibit to get there. And now your host, Marbu Brown.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Be Customer Led. I always enjoy spending time with you and our guests talking about some of the hottest topics regarding customer and employee experience. And this, we're going to tackle another subject that's getting a ton of airtime, ROI from AI deployments. The word on the street is that most companies are not getting the ROI that they anticipated out of their AI deployments. But I've gotten a chance to connect with a number of companies that are getting the ROI that they anticipated, as well as the companies that they're working with to get that ROI. Well, today, we're going to talk to one of the companies that is delivering results for companies. My guest is Matt Bruno, and he's the Chief Revenue Officer at Laivly, where he helps Fortune 500 companies deploy AI in their contact centers and actually make it work. He spent his career focused on one thing, helping large organizations bring innovation to life. With over a decade of experience at top consulting and innovation firms such as BCG, Matt has guided C-suite teams to launch new ventures, adopting emerging technology and turn strategy into real-world results. He also co-founded Pumpkin Pet Care, gaining firsthand experience building a tech-forward, customer-centric brand from the ground up. At Laivly, he gets to double down on that passion, helping companies bring in new innovations safely and effectively with a specific focus on customer experience and AI. He partners with leading enterprises to deploy agent assist tools and AI agents that measurably improve customer experience, reduce handle time, and empower frontline teams. Welcome to the program, Matt.
Thank you. What an intro. I'm so excited to be here. As you mentioned, talking ROI and getting results is one of my favorite topics. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now, it's interesting because I started off and I gave you a bit of an intro, but we always like people to have a chance to get to know our guests a little bit better. So why don't you take a minute or two and just give people a little bit more visibility into your background, how it is you came to be Chief Revenue Officer at Laivly.
Yeah, it's a great question. As you kind of mentioned, I actually started my career as a consultant. So spend a lot of time helping companies, achieve their goals. I started out as a technology consultant, really loved, working with technology, seeing how that could influence businesses. Then shifted to what was called an innovation consultant, helping come up with new products and businesses and services to help companies grow. Mm-hmm. And then lastly was at a, Boston Consulting Group, BCG, as a management consultant, focusing on company strategy, but particularly focused on helping bigger companies create startups and use technology to go to the next level. Mm-hmm. And that's actually how I ended up at Laivly. Laivly was one of my clients. I was working with a large BPO called InTouch CX. At the time, it was called 24/7 InTouch. Mm-hmm. And they realized that a lot of their clients were facing challenges as it pertains to technologies, challenges we'll talk about today. And they developed a platform to help solve it. And they hired BCG to see, does it make sense to take this platform external and go on its own as its own company? And, we worked on the entire business model and strategy, and we agreed it did. And I got to be luckily involved in that spin out process and kind of was in the right place at the right time. The CEO asked, Matt, if you really do believe in your plan, how do you feel about leaving BCG and executing the plan?
There you go. And so, there you go. Make it real.
Yeah. You got to put your money where your mouth is, right? Yeah. And so 3.5 years later, I'm still here. The plan's working, which is always surprising when I made up numbers in 2019, hoping that this was real. And, we took a little pause during the pandemic, but we're kind of on track, and it couldn't be better. The joke I make is I don't know if it was genius or luck, but, when we came into this space, this was before ChatGPT. So it's so awesome to be in the hottest space that there is. And I think, with AI being such a buzz, call centers, contact centers, right? That is where I think a lot of the benefit will be. And we've learned a lot over the last few years of what to do right.
Well, that's great. It's interesting because when I look at some of these numbers that talk about how people aren't getting their ROI, I think they're kind of like lumping all of the AI deployments together. And based on what I've seen, I think some of the contact center deployments are doing much, much better in terms of delivering ROI than some of these other spaces, right?
100%. Like a lot of those articles, to your point, when they say, hey, there isn't ROI, the contact center space is usually excluded from that analysis. That being said, it's not as easy as it seems. We've got over the last few years to see what works, what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited to talk about today what works, right? And that's where you can see I'm passionate about it, because that's always been my background. I just want to help people's businesses do better. And so it feels good when I kind of learning, what's working and what's not.
Cool. One of the things I do is I'm an author. And late last year, I helped to co-author a book called The AI Mindset, Thriving Within Civilization's Next Big Disruption, right? And I wrote a chapter on the places that AI is making a difference in the world of CX. And I talked about these, set of problems that they're perennial problems that people have been trying to solve in the CX space. And they've just been beating their heads against the wall trying to solve those problems, right? But now AI came along and started helping people to crack the code on those problems. So, example, eliminating the lag time for agents to research the answers to customers' inquiries, or minimizing the time to onboard new customer service associates with proficiency that rivals, tenured agents, or just even extracting, insights like from unstructured data. So, and Laivly, tell me about which of these problems that people have been perennially beating their head against the walls that you guys are helping to solve.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so Laivly, the way I've been looking at it, we kind of divide our business into two different focuses. Mm-hmm. We have agent assist and AI agent. And that's how we approach the problems that you're suggesting that we solve. And one of the things we've learned, it's really important to have both on the same platform, because they actually need to talk to each other, right? It's not, you can't just deflect a bunch of stuff and have, your agents not know about it. You can't have your agents assisted, but not have any AI to kind of help do things in the background. Mm-hmm. And so maybe I'll take us through each of those problems. So agent assist, what are the problems we're trying to solve there? A few things. One, how do we better guide agents with the right information at the right time? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, agents want to help people, right? And that was the most shocking thing for me when I joined the industry. Is it's a hard job, right? You need to listen to a customer. They might be upset. You got to make them feel good, make them feel comfortable, make them feel heard. You also need to navigate a bunch of outdated systems. You also need to remember all the right policies. You also might need to say certain specific brand language things to do. So it's hard to do all of that. So with agent assist,
can I add this, that while you're doing all that, you might be navigating through a bunch of different screens and a bunch of different systems to try to find all that stuff to be able to.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that's the problem I think we're trying to solve on the agent side, is how do we take all of that away and help them just create that human connection, focus on the conversation, know the right information at the right time, know the right things to say at the right time, get some good guidance and analytics on the conversation so they can improve and get better. And how could they automate tasks that they don't necessarily want to do, such as documenting all of the case notes of the conversation, mm-hmm. or like you mentioned, manually researching things. So that's what we're focusing on the agent. I'd say the perennial problem is just freeing up the agent to do what they do best. Be a human and help the other human and build a connection.
That's a bigger deal than it really seems, right? Be a human and help the other human.
100%.
Because of all the stress that they're under, trying to figure out all these other things, making it harder, sometimes they lose track of that being a human part, right?
It's so true. I gotta say, the most fascinating thing I saw on this topic was one of the things we do is like live transcription. Mm-hmm. And I didn't expect that to do much, right? But what was fascinating is we saw a couple percent CSAT just on that. And what we learned is it's just because it gives the agent confidence to focus better on the conversation. And just a little bit of focus creates a better experience for the customer, right? Because it's human, right? What are they really doing? They're making the customer feel heard, right? And they're also, then you add in case notes. And then when the agent has to feel less stress about documenting and feels more ability to listen, it goes better. But like that blew my mind, because it wasn't like we were telling them to do anything different. We're just saying, worry a little bit less about this and listen a little bit more. And the CSAT improved. Yeah, it was very fascinating.
You took some of the pressure off them. That's the agent assistant.
Yeah.
I know somewhere along the way, we're going to get to talk about your technology called SID. You also mentioned about AI,
AI agent,
which is essentially now, where you're essentially handing off some stuff from a live agent to the AI agent, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Correct.
And that's actually one of the perennial problems that I didn't mention up front, but it's like, how does that become an attractive option, right? Because a lot of times, people have done a lot of things with that, but the option hasn't been particularly attractive, right?
100%.
So
yeah.
Go.
Love that question. So the way I would think about it, and I love how you classify these as perennial problems. It's like it's a good exercise to just remind ourselves, like, what is the problem we're trying to solve here, right? Kind of feels like back in my consulting days. I'm like always like, what are we trying to solve here? But yeah, like I would say the perennial problem on the AI agent side, I would describe it as just the tech stacks are always not what you want, right? And so like you might want to do self-service, but you have manual processes that you can't automate, or you don't have a way of talking to a customer without a human being there. And I think that's where the AI agent comes in. And so I would say I'd break it down into those two components. There is the autonomous conversation, right? So this could be, voice IVRs that can answer questions and take you to the right spot quicker, or intelligent chatbots. I think chatbot is a bad name because it's kind of just like servicing an FAQ. But to actually be able to talk and get really good answers, and that's where, generative AI has gone a long way, is great. But that's only half the problem. So first problem you got to solve is like, I need to be able to speak to you without a human. The second part is I need to be able to do without a human. And that's where our AI agents are getting pretty powerful, to be able to operate the tech stack exactly like a human could without needing to invest in AI, APIs, or new infrastructure. And so that's kind of how we have been approaching it, is, right, what are your agents doing today manually that they shouldn't be doing or don't need to do? So let's automate that with our AI that doesn't need APIs, just will replicate how they're doing it. Then let's pair it with some sort of way of speaking, whether it be voice, email, chat. And now suddenly I could actually help people. And I think that was the missing piece on AI agent before, or just like, self-service before. It was, I couldn't help. I'd say, hey, I would like to make a return. And the chatbot goes, our return policy is 30 days. And you're like, okay, yeah, but I want to make a return. And it was just like, there's nothing you could do.
Basically, getting the dead end. That's one of the worst things, right? You get in a dead end, or you get into a loop, right? And you can't get out. And of course, then what happens is, look, all of these things are actually training customers, right? And so every time a customer gets into one of those infinite loops or gets to dead ends, it basically trains them that these things don't really work. They're always going to try to circumvent them and go another way to get an agent, right? A live agent. But if they have that experience where it works seamlessly, they're able to get their task done, right? Then you're training them something different, that, hey, these things really do work and they really do make a difference, right? So talk to me a little bit about, some of the technology you guys are using to solve these problems. I mentioned something like SID, and I know SID stands for something very fancy, but I'll let you go into that and talk about the technology.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so SID is our helper. What makes us unique is that we focus on how do you integrate really quickly. And so on the agent assist side, we're actually a desktop app. And that's important because we can just pull the audio right from the computer or scrape the emails and chats right from the screen. And so it makes it really easy to set up. So if you wanted SID to guide a voice agent, we're talking less than a day to set up. super important, right? Because I think that's one of the big barriers, and we'll get into the barriers in a bit, but like integration is a huge barrier, right? Like it needs to work on your current tech stack, your current process. And then, once we have the audio, we are able to use that to guide agents in real time. We're able to summarize any of the case notes. One of the things I want to highlight there that's important is everything needs to be very custom and bespoke. What we found is if you're doing case notes and it's generic, your agents aren't going to use it. And so we spent a lot of time making it really easy to set up the guidance, the case notes, the analytics to be exactly what your program needs. I think that's one of the things I've learned in the space. Every program is so unique and different. And again, it kind of goes back to what you're saying. It's because we're all people, right? Like, so they all have their own unique culture, their own unique ways of doing things. And so I think that's really important, is how do we fit our tool into your unique way? So that'll be our agent assist. And then our AI agent, we have a really powerful RPA engine that uses a new technology called LAMs, large action models. And so what they do is we could actually look at the screen and just understand what to do. So if you wanted to automate making a return, the way it used to be is you'd either need to use a bunch of APIs that might take a while to get developed. You likely need your IT resources to get engaged. They're usually not going to prioritize this project. They probably have something else to do. Or you would need to do maybe a complex RPA to set up.
And RPA, define RPA, because...
Thank you. Sorry, robotic process automation.
Okay.
And so that's the old way. The new way is, and this is crazy, but like the tech is moving so fast, you could literally just upload into our tool your training document of how do you do a return. We will map out what we think the process is, and the AI will look at the screen and figure out, oh yeah, you want me to click this button. Okay, I'm going to click it. You want me to look this thing up. Okay, I know how to look it up. And that's how we do it. We train it to work just like a human.
Okay, that's interesting. So let me go back to Sid when it's in a agent assist kind of an environment, because I've kind of seen how it works, kind of almost like the little bubble that pops up on the screen.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how that helps to guide the agent through the process that they're executing.
Yeah. So we're a screen that overlays on top of your tech stack. And from there, what we could do is live transcribe the call, give you suggestions on things to say or do based on the call, what's happening, help surface information from your various systems so you don't need to look it up. And that's kind of the agent experience. But that it goes back to what we were saying. Now I need to worry less about remembering every single one of my policies. I need to worry less about looking up all these things and fighting all my tech stack. And I could worry more about just having a discussion, helping the customer, making them feel heard. Also, because we have all the transcript, we could create a lot of analytics. We could auto QA that call. Every time I give you a guidance, I could know whether you did it or not. And that's been one of the challenges we've seen on QA. Like usually it's QA is done 2% of the time, right? And so then we move to automating it, looking at transcripts. But it's hard to get specific on the QA, right? How do you... For example, you might only care if I did something, if something happened on the call, right? So maybe you want to know how often am I making an upsell offer, but you only want me to make an upsell offer if the client mentioned this one thing. Right? If they don't mention this one thing, then don't push it, right? We could get to that level of granularity. So it then helps, create better coaching. And then with also the transcripts, we're able to see what else is happening on these calls that you might not be knowing to QA, and help create better policy ideas. So
Sid is actually pulling from, like background knowledge bases and stuff like that to be able to give the agent guidance in real time in terms of things like policies or, maybe even the kinds of answers they should be giving, because, other people have given that answer and it works. And so now it's able to kind of guide this agent through the process.
Yes, but we did a unique way of doing this. So I want to highlight, because this goes back to me learning, what works and what doesn't. What a lot of tools do is they do exactly what you say, where they're just going to reference this knowledge base, do a big LLM call to the knowledge base, large language model call, and then just try to figure out either a snippet that makes sense or a link to an article that makes sense. The challenge with that approach, it makes sense on paper. And I think that's where it's so fascinating. Every year I see like 100 new AI companies targeting the customer service space, right? So many things make sense on paper, but in reality, it doesn't work. So the reason why that doesn't work is twofold. One, a lot of clients, their knowledge base isn't ready.
Yeah.
And so if you're
That's
like,
a
hey,
big deal.
Yeah, big deal, right? So imagine saying, hey, I have an AI tool. I could guide agents. Before I do, I need you to spend 6 months organizing your knowledge base, something that you're never going to do and it's never going to be done, right? The project never happens, right? Or if you do have a good one, I'm referencing this giant, large thing. I could hallucinate. I could over guide. I might be saying things at the wrong time. It's really hard to keep track. So what we've done is we've taken like a slightly different approach. What we've done is you could upload any of your documents, whether if it's in a knowledge base, you can connect it. If it's just in PDFs or Word docs, you could upload it. If it's on your website, we could crawl it. We take all the information. We then flag if we see any conflicts in it. So you get one master source of truth that you could then ask at any time in a call for information. But what we do from this master source of truth is we then just give you a list of here's guidance we would suggest you do, but you actually opt into it and you decide, what is the context of the call where you want that guidance to be? And then specifically, what do you want that guidance to say? And so the difference is instead of going direct to the knowledge base, using it as inspiration for guidance, it just it makes it much more consistent and it lets you get started immediately.
So right? you're making it a lighter weight, a lighter lift than if you have to go back and query the whole knowledge base and
100%. And like, I would say in here, we hear about the 80 for 20 rule where you get 80% of your value on 20% of the things. And I feel that's totally true when it comes to agent guidance. You don't need to guide on everything. There's probably just 20% of the time they need guidance that will change everything. And so we could surface that from where you are today with your knowledge base. We also made a tool that made it really easy to create guidance on the fly. So even if you have no knowledge base, I promise you I could work with any program in the world. We could sit down and in an hour conversation, just looking at their QA scorecard, thinking about the things that happen on a program, we could find 5 high impact guidances that will make a huge difference. And that's something you could do in an hour versus something you need to do in 6 months.
Hey, one of the reasons that I'm talking to you is because I've also talked to some of your clients. I've seen them in real life and I know, what kind of results you guys have gotten with them. So why don't you give people a couple of examples where, you guys have had like your solution has basically, revolutionized the way they deliver customer support, and some you may be able to say the names, some you may not be able to say the names, but give us some illustrations of some of the stuff that have gone down with, deployments that you guys have done.
Yeah. Great question. So a few come to mind. So on the agent assist side, one of the ones I'm really proud of is we work with one of the largest law firms in America.
Okay.
I feel like that's probably enough that people could connect the dots, but obviously don't want to upset the largest law firm in America. But what's really funny is like, they're actually probably the most sophisticated contact center that we work with. And I think, because they're a law firm, I think a lot of people in the industry kind of write them off, but they do 7,000 calls a day. They have 1,000 agents. And these calls are really, really tough, right? You're doing these intake calls. They focus a lot on personal injury where you need to listen about someone's injury, be empathetic, be supportive, but also be collecting key details of information. And basically the purpose of this call is twofold. One, to gather the full understanding of what happened, to prepare what they call a description of incident that will be sent to a lawyer for the lawyer to decide should they take this case or not. And secondarily, to give them confidence that this is the right law firm to work with. And so we've really helped revolutionize how they're doing it by doing two things. One, we guide on specific things to ask about. And that's what blew my mind is you say, hey, I got hit by a truck. I'd say, oh, I'm so sorry. Right. But like if it actually was a commercial vehicle, that's a completely different type of case. That actually is a much better case for them. So now we could probe up. It sounds like they got hit by a big vehicle. Let's find out what, right? just forgetting to do that might be the difference between a good call and a bad call. Or even just something even smaller of introducing yourself, saying, hey, my name's Matt. I'm a case associate here to help you. If you forget to do that, it might later on the call, when they realize you're not an attorney, it'll create an awkward experience. Like, I was telling you all these things, you're not even an attorney.
Yeah.
Right? And so just getting those little things right were the difference between getting what would be a case that they could take and a case they cannot. So I think that's one big thing we did. But then the second, and this is where I was mentioning the importance of going very custom with what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Your description of incident, these are 30, 40-minute calls, and this is going to a lawyer. And we were able to work with them to automate that entire document. And so that has completely relieved the agents from feeling this like anxiety of, I'm taking this call and I'm documenting something that's going to a lawyer, right? Like, lawyers are not the easiest people to send things to, right? They like to
it's got to be meticulous. It's yeah. So
you have a friend with a lawyer, every sentence matters, right? And so we were able to automate that, and it just made these calls such a different experience for the agents. And so that's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the moment you get into the realm of the legal, then the complexity level is off the charts, right?
Yeah.
And yep. So you had something else that came to mind that you wanted to.
I'll give you one other example. Mm-hmm. So that's like where like documentation and guidance is really important. Another, and this is the reason why I highlight this, it's something that I didn't even initially think about. I think, and it's kind of changed how I work with clients. When usually we start an engagement,
mm-hmm.
we get hyper focused on contact center metrics, right? It makes sense, right? Like that's what you're tasked to manage, right? So everybody wants to either improve their QA, improve their CSAT, improve their handle time, right? Some combo of the three, but that's what everybody wants, right? And so we're working with a really large luxury retailer, and what they noticed was that when they would, let's say I sent you a shirt from them, or like a bag or something, and arrived damaged or is a wrong size shirt. The easiest thing that an agent would do is they would just say, I'm so sorry, let me send you a refund. It got me off the phone really quickly. But what they learned is like, they're actually losing a lot of revenue, right? This isn't a contact center metric. They're losing a revenue metric, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what they really should be doing is offering to say, oh, I'm so sorry, you got the wrong size shirt, or the bag was wrong color, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Let me send you the right one. Like, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying before, like, what are the problems but think about how much more work that is for an agent. I need to look up the item. I need to see if it's in stock. I might need to verify your shipping information. I might need to get your credit card. Much easier to just let you go. So what we've done is we built an automation that when these come up, we will do the research for the agent, let them know, hey, offer to do a reship. It's in stock. We already prepared everything for you. And we were able to up their reship rate by 40%.
Wow. And
that created a huge amount of revenue for the company. So the reason why I highlight it again is I want people to think a little bit outside the box. Think of the contact center for sure. Like, right. But think also like, what does the boss's boss want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what does your org want? Or what are their big initiatives? And like, I've tried this exercise now with several clients where I'll kind of force them it. It's always reluctant at first. They'll be like, it's just handle time, man. I only care about handle. I'm like, okay, humor me for a second though. Like, what else is going on in the org? And they're like, well, we are doing a big spring promotion that we really want to go well. Oh, okay, great. So like, how can I sprinkle that into your agents while still like reducing handle time?
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, the next question I was going to ask you about was about, measurable impact. What kind of metrics, are you guys seeing move, right, when you deliver these? And that was a great example that you gave just now. But hey, maybe you can, share a few others that, that you guys have seen, make like, a turnaround or something along those lines. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big three for sure, like CSAT, we usually see almost immediately, 3 to 5% increase in CSAT. And again, it just comes with the listening, the focus, the less stress. That also leads into agent retention. We've seen improvements there.
That also, by the way, is a big one because if you're constantly cycling agents in and out and whatnot, and you always have to be training new agents. Being able to keep your agents is a much better deal.
100%. And then on that note, though, is what we've also seen, and this is actually where like maybe some of the biggest improvements come from, is actually from newer agents, right? Mm-hmm. So what we've seen is we're able to improve what we call speed to green by weeks. Sometimes we've gotten down to like within 1 or 2 weeks, they're already at the tenured level. Mm-hmm. But we see, on average about a 5-week decrease in speed to green. And I find in the industry, usually it's like takes around 8 to 10 weeks to get to green. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like this has been a huge lift for some companies. Because imagine like if you have a big ramp where you might need to add in 100 agents out of nowhere. If those agents off the bat could be performing great, you could hire them a week or two later. Now that's like real tangible ROI. And why I love that example too, that's one where it doesn't require you to reduce headcount in any real way. Right? Mm-hmm. You're not getting rid of any agents. You're just saying, hey, the holiday class could start a little later. Right. And so it's almost like everybody wins. So I would say QA speed to green is a really big one. Very overlooked. Like I think there's a lot
absolutely.
Of like mathematics you do there.
Yeah.
And then, like obviously handle time's huge. On the agent assist side, we see, anywhere from, 1 to 5 minutes of handle time reduction, depending on the call type and what's happening, right? Obviously with the law firm one, even more, right? Because those are 40-minute calls. So those I think are the big ones. And then, AI agent, I think a lot about that. Obviously it's more about deflection, right? Like what amount of things can be happen fully autonomously. But yeah, I think what I really like about that, and I know we're going to get into a little bit of like the future of the industry, but I think it's to me, like the big thing is like it's giving customers more choice to get help in the channel that they want. Mm-hmm. And I think that's always been the focus of the industry, right? Is, when I'm calling, find out pretty quickly if you think I need a human or give me the human, yeah. Right? Or I might just be calling, I don't want a human. I just need something transactionally done. And I just didn't feel like typing. Give me a solution for that too. So I think like beyond just metrics, like I think what I love is like that's where we're going to, is a world where, the customer can just get the help they need the way they want it.
Well, it's interesting because in my other book, Blueprint for Customer Obsession, one of the things that I talk about is enabling people to get helped when, where, and how they want. And, you basically just articulated that, right? For a company to be customer obsessed, this is one of the things that they absolutely have to do. And AI is giving us more opportunities to be able to do that now. So
100%. And that's why I bring it up when we talk AI agent, because I don't want the metric to be deflection, right? Like it's easy with agent assist to be like, here's your customer service metrics. But like, I feel like a lot of people say, oh, my success on AI agent is deflection. I don't think so. I think it should be, the success needs to be, am I getting customers the help they want where they want
Absolutely.
It, right?
Absolutely. So we've talked about the agents and how it's helping them here and there. But I mean, like, have you gotten like specific feedback from agents on their experience interacting with the technology and stuff like that? Tell us about that.
That's our favorite thing, is oftentimes we'll have Slack groups with our clients. And agents will kind of give feedback and reply, and we get so excited. We'll share it with the whole company. But, there's ones where like, this has completely changed my job. No one better ever take Sid away from me. How do I ever work without him? It's really, it kind of makes you inspired to keep working on this, right? Like, that's why we're doing it, right? I'm doing this because I want to make their life easier.
Well, enjoying what you do is a big, big deal. So what do you think is the biggest untapped opportunity in customer experience today that you think Laivly is uniquely positioned to address?
Yeah. So I have my strong perspective, and I think we'll see if I'm right, but this is more me. I think Laivly also agrees on this, but this is like definitely been where I've been thinking for a long time, is as it becomes easier for agents to do their job, right? And as more channels open up for self-service that are relying on technology to make those, actually effective, where I think the opportunity is, it's reimagining what the role is of an agent. Mm-hmm. Right? I think a lot of times what we're thinking today is agents are there to solve problems, and really they're there to solve gaps in our technology, right? Like there shouldn't have, like if like everything was fully available on the app, you might not need an agent, right? Like you might be able to do this yourself. I think that's been like I'd love your thoughts on that. That's how I think a lot of people thought about the industry for a long time. I don't know if you agree.
I think that definitely, reimagining the role of the agent is part of the equation, because as AI is able to take different pieces of it, some pieces automated, some pieces assisted, it's actually changing the dynamics of the role.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that we had talked about a little bit earlier was about, letting humans be human and interact with another human is a big part of that. And I think some of that you guys are bringing to fruition already, but,
So I think like right now, a lot of it is about we're problem solvers, right? Is I guess what I wanted to see if like you agreed with, but where I think they need to become is more about like a relationship builder.
Yeah.
And so that to me is the shift that needs to happen. We didn't have the time to do it before because like there were problems you need to solve, right? Like I want to know where my order is. There's no way to find out where my order is. So I have to call someone who, and only they could tell me where my order is, right? But in a world where everybody knows where their order is, like what should an agent be doing? And that's where I've been getting really excited. How do you better build a connection with customer? So how do you either get information from the customer? My dream scenario is like in the future, imagine if I call Nike and Nike goes, hey, Matt, and they see that, I'm in a happy mood. They see I'm calling about a non-big issue. They go, hey, Matt, while we have you, I noticed that you've been running a lot. We're about to launch a new running shoe. Like, is there any chance that we could get your feedback on it? We can't decide between which color we go with. And then like, imagine the agent hits a button, they give me a survey. It's all done, right? The agent doesn't even do anything. Now I feel like Nike's building a relationship with me, right? The agent's taking the time to get information from me on the call, to learn about me and my preferences. Maybe I say, I'm actually struggling with running. I've been meaning to run, but like, I haven't ran in the last few years. Then maybe give me some articles to help me, right? Like you can imagine like now the agent's becoming more of like an ambassador of the brand, a relationship builder. And imagine like a world where like that shoe does launch into the color I want.
It's huge, right? Because you feel like you made a difference.
And now I will only buy Nike, right? Nike built a relation. I'll tell all my friends, man, Nike, I picked that color, guys. Like, check it out. I helped pick it.
That whole thing about the relationship building, right? Because before, again, with all the stress, all the things that people were trying to navigate, they didn't have time to do those kinds of things.
Exactly.
Now, not only do they have the time, but also, to be quite frank, AI can also help them with that relationship building, because things that it knows about that customer from other interactions and stuff like that can be brought into that conversation to help them, do that relationship building and
exactly. I think
all
that
of
was the two issues. I didn't have the time to do it, but imagine if like 70% of the calls I had before are gone. And so you say, you know what? I'm going to repurpose some of that time for agents to chit chat, to learn, to do this, to do that. And then, and then you said the exact thing. The second point is I didn't have that information, but if now I have time, now I have access to the right information. What else could I do? And then I think the last thing is a lot of things I could do to like personalize afterwards could be done very easily. Imagine like, we already have a transcript of the call. Imagine afterwards, if you're telling me about your issue with the running, I could easily send you that article afterwards, right?
Exactly.
It would take 2 seconds, but it would feel so personal. Or imagine like a week later, hey, I know you called about this like bag you got, for your wife's birthday. How did it go?
There you go.
Right. And like, that's where I see like, it's almost like if you think like concierge sellers and that type of experience, like if like in the jewelry space where like they'll be, ambassadors for their clients and they know everything about them and they're following up. I kind of see a world where like that becomes more at scale.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is we're probably going to have to reimagine AHT a little bit, because spending that time might take a little bit more time, but the payoff down the road is going to be much bigger. So,
and so I'm curious where this goes. That's why I say this is more my thought. I don't know if it's a full industry or lively thought, but I think the math is, to your point, if you don't reimagine it, you're just going to automate it all away and there will be no agents, right? And like, I don't know if that's the future I want, right? Like, I still believe there's times like I as a consumer want to talk to a human. And I do believe there's like benefits of having humans.
Absolutely.
Right?
When it gets right down to it, I don't think it's a future we should want, because I think that whole idea of the relationship and connecting is something that's super important. Well, Matt, I hate to tell you this, but we're pretty much out of time. So,
Oh man, it flew by.
it just flew by. It's been a pleasure. If people want to get a hold of you, continue this conversation, how do they do that?
You could find me at matt.bruno@laivly.com. Please look me up on LinkedIn. So I am Matt Bruno on LinkedIn as well. Oh. And as you can tell, I love chatting about this. So like, please reach out, right? Like, even if it's just, I had a question, I want to, you have a perspective you want to share. I think I'm always trying to learn from others too. So, as I go and do more of these conversations, I would love to hear everyone's opinions.
Cool. So let me thank you for joining me on the program, and listeners, I want to thank you for joining us to listen to this discussion. I'm sure you've picked up some nuggets that you can use. And again, part of the reason that Matt is here is because I have seen the work that they've done. I've talked to their clients and understand that they're actually delivering results. And so that's one of the reasons that I want to have him come and join us for the program. Well, that's all we have time for on today's episode. Hey, but come back and join us next time, because we're going to continue tackling, these perennial problems and talking to companies that are bringing forth solutions and delivering results that actually make a difference. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you on the program next time.
Thanks for listening to Be Customer Led with Marbu Brown. We are grateful to our audience for the gift of their time. Be sure to visit us at becustomerled.com for more episodes. Leave us feedback on how we're doing, or tell us what you want to hear more about. Until next time, we're out.